So you've arrived in Florence and you have 2 days to explore this wonderful Renaissance city. Where do you start? How do you plan this? There's so much to see and 2 days will go very, very quickly. Buongiorno, good morning and welcome to this episode, Expat Lifestyle with Bads. I hope this episode really helps you with regards to how do you plan, what do you see when you have 2 days here in this beautiful place. And there's no doubt that you do need to plan your stay here in Florence. And the worst thing you want to experience is frustration and lost time in not knowing where to go and what to see. So I've prepared a 2-day itinerary for you, 5 or 6 places to visit on day 1 and the same on day 2. And as always, thumbs up, subscribe, bell notifications on. I hope you enjoy this itinerary. The Duomo is truly iconic, late 13th century. Brunelleschi's dome, as you can see through there, is just magnificent. And this is a starting point of your 2-day itinerary, the number 1 visiting point on day 1. Now we can see there the long line already starting because it is a free entry, but I would suggest pre-book, beat the line tour, so that we're not spending an hour or so in a line. And if you are booking a tour, why not climb the dome? It's a wonderful experience, it truly is. We're nearly there. I would suggest you walk around the entire basilica. It gives you an idea of the sheer size of this wonderful place. So that doorway there is where you enter to climb up through the dome. And these people here would have a beat the line ticket, so their climbing time has already been allocated. So if you don't pre-book a ticket, you won't get one when you arrive. So get online, there's many sites, get your guide, Viatar, TripAdvisor, they've all got great tours that you can explore, and a ticket that will get you entry into the Duomo and provide access to the climb would be around 60 to 70 euro. Now most Duomo tickets will include the museum, which is behind me there, and that's well worth visiting too. Now literally 5 metres within that front door was a spot where Michelangelo sculptured David, and that's a fact. Expect and plan the tour to last about 2 to 2.5 hours, so try and book the earliest tour for that particular day. It's a good way to start. Having said that, if you can't, well, the itinerary is flexible. Florence, it's such a walkable city, everything's within close proximity. Just make sure you've got some comfortable shoes on, okay? So we've finished our tour. I think you've deserved a coffee, and I'm going to take you to the oldest cafe in Florence, known as Gilli. And Gilli can be found in the Repubblica, the commercial centre of Florence, and it's only about a 200-metre walk from here. Okay, so here we have Gilli, that famous cafe in Florence, the oldest cafe in Florence. It's lovely inside. Just check this out. Cafe, 1733, as you can see there. And this piazza is known as Repubblica. It's still beautiful, isn't it? Savoy Hotel there. It's a lovely piazza. There's always something happening here. And I'll just point out too, as you're walking around, keep your eye open for perhaps somewhere to eat, have a meal. Mamma mia, just there. We've had a meal there. Actually had my niece come over to Florence earlier in the year. We took them there for dinner. Nice meal in there, mamma mia. And here we have il porcellino, the wild boar. And the next stop on the itinerary is a visit to the old palace, Palazzo Vecchio. The piazza is referred to as the Piazza del Signoria, and this is a great place to visit, to look and admire the Renaissance art and sculptures that are on display. Florence is iconic, isn't it? I don't need to tell you that, but the culture, the history, the food, the wine, the stories, the people, there's so much here. There's always things happening. There's so many things to see. And you've just got to try and soak it up as much as you can. The Piazza della Signoria has been the centre of political life in Florence since the 14th century, with the prominent Palazzo Vecchio overlooking the square. It has celebrated great triumphs and also agonising punishments, highlighted by this plaque, a marble circle inscription indicating that Savonarola was himself burnt at the stake here in 1498 after being denounced by the Inquisition as a heretic. Enjoy marvelling at the sculptures in the Piazza della Signoria. Neptune celebrates Medici's maritime ambitions, and Michelangelo's David, the original of course, is in Academia. Hercules, to the right of David, was appropriated by the Medici to show their physical power after their return from exile. The Loggia dei Lanzi, which sits on the right of Palazzo Vecchio, functions as an open-air sculpture gallery and was designed by Orcagna in 1376. There are presently some beautiful sculptures, such as the statue of Perseus holding Medusa's head, a stark reminder of what happened to those who crossed the Medici, and the rape of the Sabines. These are two of many beautiful sculptures found under the arches of the Loggia dei Lanzi. There we have the start of the Vasari corridor, which did take, back in the day, the Medici family up to their Pitti Palace, which crossed over the Arno River above the Ponto Vecchio. And right now I'm walking towards the Medici Museum, and hopefully you have also booked a Beat the Line entry ticket. So behind me is the line for the pre-booked tickets. It's quite efficient, very efficient there. You order online and you can pick up the tickets just there. And look in front of me, we can see the sign hanging down from the ceiling there is where you can buy tickets on the day. But I would suggest you purchase online, pre-book, and the entrance into the Uffizi is just behind me over here. Collecting the tickets after pre-purchasing online, very, very easy. And just through the arches at the end will be the Arno River, which we'll check out when we have a look at the Ponto Vecchio after this. One of the oldest museums in the world, the Uffizi Gallery, has a huge collection of Renaissance masterpieces with works by Botticelli. Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, to name just a few. The bookshop, just like the gallery, is extensive. It even has its own post office to allow you to send books home. I suggest you visit with a guided tour to ensure that you don't miss the top masterpieces. Now, a skip the line ticket with an audio guide was €43. And what about the Uffizi? Look, there's so much to take in, isn't there? Just remarkable. The collection of art that has been put together by there, and Medici are obviously very, very much influential in that area. Travelling with children, I'll tell you what, the kids in there were not looking too engaged, just quietly. So it's something to consider, isn't it? You've got to keep your little ones happy. Reminds me of a funny story. We sat down at a restaurant and we heard the mum say to one of their kids, "Just give me one night." I mean, that's the reality, isn't it? It might not be the trip for your children. A bit harsh, but maybe leave them at home with Nana and Grandpa. Hey, something to think about. Now, I'm sure you're a little bit hungry, thirsty. It's just a matter of having a look around and finding somewhere to sit down. Now, another great little spot to stop and have a rest, either a hot drink, cold drink, is just around the corner. So Republica, the carousel's just behind me, and we're going this way to the left. And the street name you can see up there, Via Por San Michele. Okay, so we come this way. It's like a secret little garden, this place. And here's the entrance to it here. That looks nice and enticing, doesn't it? And look, I'll tell you what, it's one of those secret little hidden gems, I call it. Not as busy. It's not as obvious. It's a great little spot, however. And there's a few people here, as we can see. Looks lovely, doesn't it? Great little spot. Nice little atmosphere. People are on the spritzers already. Look, I hope you're having a fantastic time. Your first day here in Florence. It is important, because there's a lot of movement, I know. It is important you find a spot to sit down, have a drink, have something to eat, reflect on what you've seen, look at your photos and so on, and just recharge for the rest of today. Because remember, you've got to make the most of tomorrow as well. Now, please, as I'm a resident here, I do know my way around like this little hidden gem here. So leave some comments below, send through some questions, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Salute. Now, I'll just flip the camera around because we're on the Arno River and we've got the Ponto Vecchio in front of us. Just so unique, isn't it? Not only due to its age, 13th century, but the fact that we've got all the shops and living quarters on it as well, and they were back in medieval times butchers and tanneries and fishmongers, and it was quite a smelly, unpleasant place to visit. So much so that Medici didn't want to walk across with the common people and the smells, and they had that corridor built across it, as you can see there, the Vasari corridor, and that led from the Palazzo Vecchio across the Arno, as we can see, and all the way up to the Pitti Palace. Amazing. And in the late 16th century, all those butchers and fishmongers were outlawed, and the law of the day then said we had to have jewellery shops and gold shops on that bridge, and that's what we still find today. Here we get a great view of the Vasari corridor up above, the private corridor of the Medici family. They would walk along that, and here we are, the Ponto Vecchio. Always busy, always. I would suggest an early morning walk or a late evening walk. Early morning, you'll have the bridge to yourself, I can guarantee that. Evening, there's always an entertainer. You've got the lovely sound of guitars and so on. It's fantastic. All the lovely gold and jewellery shops. Bit of window shopping. Or a purchase. Very romantic here of an evening. Something to consider as well. But it's great to walk over. It's great to get some photos. Now, an evening sunset photo is great from this little spot. And that next bridge we see is the Santa Trinita Bridge. That's very, very busy of an evening. Great vantage point, the Santa Trinita Bridge. There's the Vasari corridor. Get a good look at it there, don't we? And as we come over onto the southern side of the bridge, we leave the historical centre of Florence and enter Oltrarno, which has a lovely little suburb, I'll call it a suburb, called Santo Spirito. And that's my tip for you for evening dinner on day one. The Santo Spirito Piazza. The Basilica of Santo Spirito is a beautiful church up there too, and has some original work from the great man himself, Michelangelo. Early evening, and we are walking along Tornabuoni, the fashion street of Florence, and it's always lovely this time of evening. And as we walk along Tornabuoni, this is taking us up towards Piazza di Santa Trinita, and that piazza is named after the Santa Trinita church that we'll see shortly. The Santa Trinita Piazza is a very popular spot too at this time of evening for street performers, and I'm pretty sure there's one up there now. It's a nice walk along here, and my suggestion is, after having a walk along the Tornabuoni like we are right now, you go to the Santa Trinita Bridge, which we can see ahead, get some photos there, the sunset, and then walk up to Santa Spirito Piazza for dinner. It's a great place for dinner, very atmospheric, and nice food too. Lovely piazza, laneways, and the Santa Trinita Church. One of the oldest here in Florence too. Okay, let's head to the Santa Trinita Bridge. Check out the view to the west where the sun is setting, and to the east we'll get a nice look at the Ponto Vecchio, the old bridge. So we cross this bridge to go into Oltrarno, and that's where we'll find Santo Spirito, the piazza, and we'll have a nice, and that's a nice spot for you to have a meal for sure. What about the sunset? It's beautiful here, and consequently we always get a lot of people on this bridge. You're spoiled, aren't you? To the west the sunset, and to the east you've got a beautiful image of the Ponto Vecchio. Another reason for me suggesting that you come over the river into Santo Spirito for a meal is that it's a lovely walk, and this side of the Arno, on the southern side, is a little bit more authentic, I think. There's lots of artisans, lots of workshops. So the Santo Spirito Piazza is very popular, not just for tourists but locals as well. Lovely shady trees in the middle, and if I turn around now, I'll show you the Basilica of Santo Spirito. Here we are. Quite modest on the outside, isn't it? Quite modest, but don't be fooled. We've got some work in there of a young Michelangelo. It's great to see. It's a lovely church. So your job would be to select a restaurant and decide where you're going to have your dinner. Can you see why I've put this on the first day where to finish and have a meal. Very atmospheric, and you have a fair selection and the prices are reasonable. People who have come to see us and are visiting Florence, we bring them up here all the time. And actually the tomato over there, we have been there a few times. In fact, we were here earlier in the week with a couple who had come out from Melbourne, Australia. Beautiful, really is nice. Good food, great atmosphere. And of course, down the northern end of the piazza, you've got the wonderful Basilica of Santo Spirito. And having had a nice meal, my suggestion, pop around the corner and get some authentic ice cream just to finish off your meal. That would be nice. So there's our restaurants there, and we come to the southern end, turn left, and we have an artigianale sorbeteria, so naturally made ice cream, authentic ingredients. And that's where I suggest you get your ice cream. Now, a very simple way to determine the authentic ice cream from the mass-produced is the authentic will have just a flat silver cover to keep the ice cream nice and fresh, whereas other ice creameries it'll be fluffy and covered in all sorts of colourful syrups and berries. Okay, so avoid the fluffy looking ice cream, and that natural artigianale shop is what you need to look for. Now, depending where you're staying in Florence, after having had a lovely dinner at Santo Spirito, bought some nice ice cream, I'd suggest you walk back via the Pitti Palace, put that into your Google Maps, and look, it's only a 300-metre walk just around the corner here. Having a look at, and of course the bobbly gardens behind the Pitti Palace are amazing. So here we have the Pitti Palace, and this is on the way back to your hotel, wherever that may be. Now, if you're not too tired, I'd suggest you do have a bit of a walk around a little bit later in the evening too, when the numbers of people have really diminished. Because at that time of night, later in the evening, Florence is lovely to have a look at when all the lights are on. Ponto Vecchio was buzzing, wasn't it? That was buzzing with the guitar playing there. And look, it's always like that on sunset. What a fantastic atmosphere. Now, tomorrow night, end of day 2, I'll take you up to the lookout, the Piazzale Michelangelo, for a look at Florence on sunset above the city. And that's pretty good too. So what did you think of the day 1 itinerary? Please drop a comment below and let me know. Feedback's greatly appreciated. And I'm looking forward to sharing the day 2 itinerary with you next episode. As always, thumbs up, subscribe, bell notifications on. I'll see you next episode with day 2 in Florence. Ciao.